Hello! Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to take you along with me on my journey of reading Misery by Stephen King for the first time. And I was actually inspired to read this because somebody left a comment on my Billy Summers review and mentioned Misery, and I realized that I hadn't read it before, and so I figured that I would document reading it. I thought it would be fun to do a reading vlog, and it definitely was. Let's get into it. I'm gonna start with the reading vlog and roll that footage, and then after that I'm going to talk about my final thoughts. So here is my journey of reading Misery. I am giving my reading vlog update on Misery. If you can hear the football game in the background, that's just life. But I'm giving a reading update on Misery. I'm about this far, so not that far yet. I hope if you're watching this that you've read it. But basically, this main character woke up already in the care, if you will, of Annie Wilkes. And Paul Sheldon is the main character. He's a writer, and he just woke up in the care of Annie Wilkes. And so far what I love is that it just gets right into the circumstances, the action, kind of, if you will, I guess. Not really, I don't even want to say action, but it gets right into the plot, the circumstances. And I love the way it starts with essentially Paul coming to. Yeah, it basically just starts with Paul realizing he's in these circumstances, and pretty early already in the book he's like, whoa, Annie is his proclaimed #1 fan. She is his #1 fan of his Misery books, and he already is kind of like, this is really weird. Why didn't she take me to a hospital? How did she have IVs ready and everything? The whole thing he's understandably got some questions about. I also really like, obviously, the parallels so far between Paul Sheldon and Stephen King. It's clearly based a little bit on some part of him, and I really enjoy that. Not a lot to update yet, really, as far as the plot goes, but I just love how it gets right into the circumstances. The characters are very compelling, and the way that Paul is written, the way his thoughts and experiences are written, are just really compelling right off the bat. I'm definitely going to get to read a little bit more today, hopefully, and I will give an update once I've read some more. I didn't update last night, but I did read a bunch more, and I just got to the part now where, obviously, tons of spoiler alerts. If you haven't read this or haven't seen this, don't watch this. But I just got to the part where he had to burn his manuscript. Honestly, yeah, it was hard to read. Pretty hard to read. I'm also kind of pleasantly surprised at how well a story that really only has 2 characters is being carried right now. I'll give another update when something happens. Oh my gosh, zoomed in super far into my face. Something about this story and this premise and the whole thing just feels so real to me. It's very tangible. It feels very much like an actual situation, and that realism just makes it that much more eerie. It's a very eerie type of horror, but I don't have a lot more to update. Enjoying it so far. Definitely getting me in the mood for spooky season. Also kind of making me want to visit Colorado. Okay, I just read the part where Paul picks the lock and sneaks out in his wheelchair to get more medication when Annie's gone, and the tension. All I have to say, the tension. And also, I swear, I physically felt the pain of her punching his knee. It was visceral for me, and I need an emotional break after reading oh my gosh, just my heart. I'm freaking out. Paul's been out of his room a couple times now. I'm nearing the end of the story. just a little bit ago, he found Annie's book with all of her news clippings of like all of these people who have died and gone missing that obviously she apparently has killed. Reading that part gave me such bad anxiety. I like woke up in the middle of the night super anxious. But anyway, this story is building to something right now. So Annie's back from having her outburst, and I know that this is building to like the big final moments because we're pretty far into the book. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm kind of feeling now, and I'm a little bit worried that Paul's not gonna come out of this. So I'm just kind of feeling a little bit defeated, as his character also is, I'm sure, and it's a really rough book to read. Yeah, not a good bedtime story. So I tried to document as much as I could during the process of reading, but now I just finished it last night, right before bed, and it definitely is not the best dream seed because it is so scary. Oh my gosh. That ending, spoiler alert for anybody who has not read this and doesn't want it to be ruined, I'm going to talk about the ending, but I don't remember what my last update was. I think it was around the time Annie chopped off his foot, and there's still a good amount of story after that chronicling his rescue and payback, revenge with Annie, and I have so many mixed feelings. The ending was great. This was such a well done ending, and I think what was so nice about it is it didn't end so perfectly wrapped up neatly in a bow, because the reality is, even though Paul got out of that situation, he obviously is going to have lifelong trauma from it. And that's depicted really, really well in this. Stephen King definitely depicts his PTSD, his issues with substance abuse have gotten really bad, obviously. There's a lot that he has to deal with both physically and emotionally, mentally. And I appreciate that that wasn't just glossed over. It wasn't like, oh, he escaped the end. It was like, he escaped, but he still has all of this lifelong trauma to carry around and work through. Just kind of unpacking my thoughts about this. I mean, this is just one of the scariest books I've ever read. And I was thinking about it this morning, why this book in particular feels so terrifying to me. And I think something about being held captive by somebody who just has no reason. Something about that experience in particular is so, so terrifying to me. And it was really well written. I feel like the detail in this book was just so vivid, and that also made it really scary. I mean, my gosh, it was just so beyond vivid. So a lot that I liked about this book was that it also is basically a love letter to writing. This is a common theme in definitely a lot of Stephen King's writing, but this in particular seems to really look at writing from the lens of being an escape. And I'm not sure exactly about the timeline, but I'm curious because I know Stephen King dealt with his own addiction issues. I read about it in On Writing, and he even talks about basically not remembering writing Cujo. I wonder if this is after he's gotten sober. It feels like it definitely is, and I think it fits the timeline of getting sober, and I wonder if that's a way that he definitely helped deal with that and used that as an escape in some ways, and used it as like a coping mechanism. The way that he writes about like the addiction that Paul has to the painkillers and later like his drinking and stuff like that definitely feels realistic, because I know that he's gone through that, and I also just felt like it was a really important thing to add those elements. That's the little step, the little addition that kind of can take a book from good to great. I mean, I'm honestly blown away, but this is definitely a love letter to writing, and in particular to writing as an escape or a coping mechanism. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's beautiful, and coming from someone who has probably used it that way, it was just It was really, really cool to read. Something especially remarkable about this book is essentially it relies on two characters the entire time and manages to stay interesting. Obviously, there are little sections where he's writing the book for Annie, and technically that has like extra story added in. And then also technically there are some other characters towards the end that we see for just a very short amount of time, but really it is just these two characters, and the story manages to stay interesting and engaging. And I also think that part of this is that the pacing is on point. The pacing in this book is so good. You get right into the circumstances. Everything just starts moving right away, but it doesn't start moving like crazy fast. It definitely still builds. It is just a really steady crescendo of horror. So it's a pretty horrifying story, but I enjoyed it a lot. And as I said, I feel like it is just so engaging, and that's kind of amazing because there's only really two characters throughout the bulk of the story, and there's not really a huge change in setting, but it just relies on, again, that amazing description and that really steady pace. And I think that those things make it still remain really interesting, even though there's not a huge change in setting. There's just really two characters. The thing is, I don't think I would ever pick it up again because it was so scary. Yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. I could just rave about Misery on and on and on. And I loved the little shining Easter egg in there. Oh my gosh, beautiful. But yeah, that's it for this. I loved it. So scary. I'm like scarred for life. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you later. Like, subscribe, and let me know below if you like Misery.